Welcome to the Making Mischief podcast. Here are your hosts, Chris and Heather.
Welcome back to the Making Mischief podcast.
The podcast where we talk about all things Mischief toys. And in this episode, we're going to talk about logos.
Yes.
We're going to talk about logos. We're going to talk about our voice actor friend Peter. And we're also going to talk about sort of the cartoons and things that we had created, because we haven't really touched upon that yet. I think we've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but sort of glossed over it.
Yeah.
So, the logo stuff. I wanted to figure out how to make a logo for Mischief Toys. This is before we even sort of worked with our artist.
Not necessarily. We had worked with her. Because remember, she touched up the ghastly drawing that you did?
Right.
But for whatever reason, we didn't even think to go to her for a logo.
Right. Well, I didn't think to go to her for anything else. I figured that was the end of the line, but turns out she ends up becoming the Mischief Toys lead artist.
Yeah.
So how things happen that are just so weird, because we knew our artist, Noel, for a long time, many years. You were friends with her. You went to high school with her, right? And I knew her through a friend, and then you and I met, and then we needed a logo for Gastlecast, and she actually drew that up.
Yeah.
So that's now what our logo is. It's you and I. It's like a silhouette.
Yeah.
So she came up with that, and then eventually we got to Mischief Toys, and then she helped us with making, or I guess refining Ghastly.
Yeah, she made him look better.
Yeah, so she refined Ghastly, made him look more cartoony instead of drawing that I had drawn up. But she did a really good job with that. However, I never really thought to ask her about making any logos or anything. I don't know why.
Which is so stupid, because she made the Gastlecast logo. She did such a good job making Ghastly look better. And we were just like, okay, let's turn to Fiverr.
Right. So I decided to turn to Fiverr. So if you don't know what Fiverr is, it's basically a website where you can hire somebody to do work for you. So there's a lot of voice actors on there, which that's how we sort of get to Peter. There are cartoonists. There are people that do all sorts of stuff. And of course, there are people on there who do logo work. So I reached out to one of those people, and I saw some of their artwork. And I think people on Fiverr, I'm sure that they do good art, some of them. But then I think some BS, like their art. Yeah. And it really isn't as good as they're saying it is, or their preview photos may not be by them for real. Because the I was going to say voice actor, the artist that I found made us a bunch of logos. So basically I asked for a logo for our character Ghastly. Here's a picture of what Ghastly looks like. I really wanted just to be his head. I wanted to say Mischief Toys. I kind of left it at that. And it was just make me a very simple logo. That is that. Well, we got all sorts of crazy stuff, which we're going to have to share this on Instagram. We'll share all these photos on Instagram after this episode releases.
Making Mischief Pod.
But the video version, which is on Gastlecast YouTube, we will show these pictures up on the screen. So they start from meh, like not so good at all, to like horrible. There's like a Ghastly with a shield. For some reason, they kept going with a shield. Then they made a Ghastly picture where they just changed the cartoon entirely. He has horns. They, for some reason, gave him hair. They made him almost look like an ogre, which is really bizarre.
And he has weird googly eyes. Then we get more shields, the googly-eyed picture. Then they take the googly-eyed picture and they make him yellow, which is really weird. Then they take the pictures and they're like putting it up against backgrounds. I guess, hey, this is what it'll look like if it's like a sticker and it's applied to something, maybe a wall. Oh my gosh.
But then we start getting into really bizarre stuff. So there's one without having a nose. Ghastly has no nose. I didn't understand that one at all.
And it's like cursive, though. Like,
you
don't think of toys when you see cursive, in my opinion.
Exactly, yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird. It is very weird. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a sports store.
It reminds me of like what you would see on like a baseball.
Yes, that's exactly.
What do you
Jersey.
call that? Jersey.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Then they put Ghastly's head without the nose on a body, and it made him look like he's walking around.
But it's not even Ghastly's body. It's a human body.
It's a human body. It's really, really weird.
With really big clothes on.
You get big clothes and he has big shoes on.
He looks like a kid that's like in an outfit for career day at school.
Yeah. So
like he has a blazer.
Then they made him where he looks like he's ill. They changed his face now. They gave him these crazy teeth and these weird eyes. He almost looks like he's drunk.
Oh my God.
It's such a weird picture. And like a bubble font, which is also odd. It looks like balloon. Then they show you what it looks like if it's applied to a wall. They keep doing that. Another one, Ghastly this time has no nose again. Then they made this really weird, outlandish character with this mutant nose.
They gave us... So, Mischief is in, like, a Disney-like font.
Yes.
And then, yeah, this isn't even He reminds me of, like, a Frenchman, like, with his weird hat.
Yes.
But then, it's like a creature human?
Yeah, it's like a hybrid person.
What is that nose?
I don't know, but it freaks me out.
None of this is Ghastly.
None of this is Ghastly.
I feel like that's a demon.
Yeah.
But like a scary demon.
It's creepy. It actually looks like
one of the... I have the chills.
It looks like
this.
From Twilight Zone. It's when this person wakes up and they unwrap the person's face and they have an actual human face and the doctors around them have a face that look like this.
Ew.
It's really creepy. But yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. And at that point, I was like, Heather, Fiverr is definitely not the way to go for anything. Like somebody had mentioned during a Gastlecast Live that if you guys need things done, Fiverr is a good place to go. You should try it out. And I was like, okay, why not? We got nothing to lose. We'll try that out and see what's up. So I think in order to get this artwork, it costs right around like $20. Then you tip them, you go through the whole thing. I ended up getting my money back for this because it was so outlandish and so not even near what I wanted that we decided we have to cancel this thing. We can't move forward. And I didn't even feel right. I don't know. I didn't feel right taking it and acting like I was going to use it. I mean, the work was just horrendous. It was stupid.
Horrible.
I think I maybe tipped them or something. I don't know what I did. But it was horrible. So I thought from that point, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to use Fiverr again. It's obviously a sham. I don't know if they just have BS artists on there acting like they know what they're doing and they really don't. And it's like a scammy sort of thing or what? I don't know. So then weeks later, months later, actually, a while down the road, I decided that I wanted to have cartoons for Mischief toys. So I started to look around. I first asked people I knew about cartoons and cartoonists and people who could do it, and I couldn't get anywhere. So I was like, I'm just going to go right back to Fiverr again. So I did. And I found an artist on there, or I guess it's a team of artists who do all this animation, to put together a long-form Ghastly cartoon. And really what it was is explaining what Ghastly is, where he comes from, the rules behind Ghastly, just all the things. I thought it would be kind of fun to do that. And I figured that our fan base, which there was very little of a fan base at that point, but I figured our fan base would like it and that would help growth of Mischief Toys by making this cartoon.
Yeah.
So we made this cartoon and it was about 1.5 minutes long. It was pretty long. We hired somebody to do the music for it. Mm-hmm. Then we decided to hire a narrator. Mm-hmm. Somebody to basically tell Ghastly's story. So in my head, it was always that Ghastly doesn't talk, really.
Yes.
It's that he has somebody talking for him and sort of explaining, like narrating, like what he's doing in his life. I thought that would be kind of a funny way to go. Well, I went on Fiverr again. So now the cartoon has, been completed and they did a pretty good job. I then go and search for this narrator. And I stumble upon somebody named Peter. And Peter is really great, by the way. We've grown a great relationship with him. I consider him a friend now. At first, it was sort of just a business arrangement. We'd go back and forth on Fiverr. But now we've gone as far as to like being friends on Facebook. And he also emails back and forth. We text each other. Just a really stand-up guy. He and his wife, they're both great people. But at the time, I was looking for an English accented actor because that original Ghastly cartoon, I wanted it to have the feel of like a Discovery Channel, sort of like video,
Like
yeah,
you're being introduced.
you're discovering Ghastly.
Discovering Ghastly?
You're
yeah.
discovering this creature.
Exactly. And in the video, there was a line that I really wanted to come off well. And I know I'm not going to remember it now, but it's like, and this is Ghastly. Like an introduction. And this is Ghastly. And the way that I wrote it was the way I was hoping Peter would read it. And he did. I gave him no direction. I just said, here is what I'm looking for, an English-speaking voice actor, and here's the script. I don't think I told him to make it like Discovery Channel. I don't think I told him really anything. And he sort of took it, and he ran with it, and I guess he got the gist based off of how I wrote it. And it opens with blah, 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 and this is Ghastly. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy knocked it out of the park. I just couldn't even believe how good it came out. Like this, the very first time we worked with him was brilliant. It was perfect. I didn't have to ask for any changes at all. I think the only thing I ever did was he recorded a lot more because the script was long, and I ended up cutting parts of the script out.
I think
if
so,
I remember
too.
correctly.
Yeah, we've done that before.
And I fit it in with the cartoon because it was becoming cluttered in the cartoon. Like we would have had to speed up how fast he talks. Like it would have just been a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So when I received the cartoon, I was able to put together the music, the sound effects, the voice actor. I sort of combined all the pieces in order to make that very first cartoon. And from henceforth, we decided to work with that cartoon group through Fiverr, and also Peter the narrator. And we were doing cartoons for a while. We did one for Zombie Ghastly, Skeleton Ghastly, I think. And I think we did it for Initiation Ghastly, which became Narrator, or for the Coven of Mischief. Do you remember?
I don't think we did anything for we did the Coven of Mischief ourselves. I don't remember if we did anything for.
We did one because he was in a church. Remember?
Oh yeah, that was for Narrator, I think.
I think it was for Narrator. So, the Narrator figure was the first Coven of Mischief figure that we ever dropped. And it started from a point with Ghastly dressed up in a suit to make him look like he is attending some sort of meeting, like some sort of dark meeting. And he's, almost like a cult leader sort of character. And I thought that was interesting, like an interesting avenue for Mischief toys. I want to have like the kid-friendly aspect of it, but behind it all, I like there to be like this dark sort of mysterious thing. And that's kind of where this Narrator Ghastly comes in. But it sort of all came together with Peter, because Peter did such a good job and we were working with him so much. I realized, okay, this narrator is speaking for Ghastly, but who is the narrator? Like, is it an actual creature? Is it some sort of different looking creature that we would eventually make? Is it a Ghastly looking creature? Is it like a little Ghastly running around, but he's all black and he has the red eyes and he's more mysterious, I guess, has a past that we don't know about. Like, we tell Ghastly's story, but we don't tell the narrator's story. And the way that I explained it in future iterations about the narrator is that the narrator has a name that is unspoken in the human tongue.
Yeah.
So you can't say it. So that's why he calls himself the narrator, which I thought would be kind of a fun thing as well. Like he has some netherworld name that we just cannot pronounce.
Question.
Yeah.
Did you know that we were going to create a figure for the narrator when we first started doing the cartoons?
No. So that was something that I can't come up with when, like I said, when I heard his voice and he was hitting it out of the ballpark, it seemed like, okay, this is what we should do. Because when I created that or came up with the idea of having Ghastly in the jacket, I was like, that is who the narrator is.
Yeah.
He's the ringmaster.
Because, like, I just find it very interesting, the things that you come up with. And it's like, sometimes we don't have plans to do things like the narrator. And it just sort of pieces itself together.
Yeah.
And it makes me really excited for like what you come up with in the future.
Well, it's coming up with ideas that are so easily, it gives you the opportunity to bend them a little bit
Yeah.
and sort of like change down the road. Like nothing is like super concrete where you can't make a change to it.
Yeah.
So like the idea of having a narrator, yeah, of course, we haven't talked too much about the guy that's speaking. We don't know anything about it. We haven't mentioned anything about him. He's just, for all you know, you're watching these cartoons or these live videos with us walking around in robes and stuff. You don't realize the thing that's speaking is actually a part of Mischief, is an actual character of the Coven.
Yeah.
So that's what I find interesting, is that mystery, and then also sort of bringing it to your attention out of the blue, and you're like, oh my God, this whole time that was the narrator speaking, on all these cartoons. That's who this is, right? So I find all that interesting. I like all the mystery.
Yeah.
The mystery is really fun.
Yeah, I really dig it. I think that we've created something, and I feel like it was unintentional. I mean, it's obviously intentional now, but I feel like the pieces that have come together, it's not like we dreamt of this entire thing and everything going into it.
Right.
Like when we decided to make Ghastly into a toy, it's not like, oh, well, we're going to get an English guy to make a cartoon and then he's going to be in a suit, and that's not actually going to be Ghastly. He's going to look like Ghastly, but he's not Ghastly.
Right.
He actually wears a suit and he's the narrator. And then, this is going to happen and this is going to happen and this is going to happen. It's like we're creating the story as we go.
I guess you can call
think it's
it
cool.
lazy writing, because we haven't really, it isn't like it was well thought out. It's sort of like, this works, so let's do that.
Well, I don't want to talk about it in this episode, but there have been times where, like, I try to be really good and really clear with communication, but there are times where, like, I see something in my head and I try to explain it to our artists, because we mostly communicate via text. I mean, we've had a couple video calls or whatever, but for the most part, we communicate through text. And in my head, I have all the words laid out, but then on paper, I'm not quite like, I'm not that great at describing what I'm thinking. And so she will come up with something and it's exactly what I told her to come up with, but I didn't properly describe it.
Right.
But sometimes we have happy accidents that way.
Absolutely.
Like there was a figure recently that we'll get into at some point during this podcast that I was thinking of doing another completely different line of, I guess, Ghastly variants, but I miscommunicated what I wanted, and she did something the way that I communicated it, and we decided to use it anyway, even though it was nothing like what was in my head. But in my head, I was picturing something, but translated through text, I didn't explain it like 100% the way that I should have.
Right.
Yeah. That's hard to explain, and I know that sounds really cryptic right now, but we'll get like super into stuff like that.
On the other side of this is that, this whole Coven of Mischief thing, which we talked about in a previous episode, initiation, all the codes that are hidden that you have to, break these things, break the puzzles that we create to I guess, move forward in whatever the next step of the process is. All of these things are incredibly hard to explain to an audience. You're talking about confusion and maybe misspeaking or trying to get people to understand, trying to relay the information to the artist so she does understand. Relaying the information to a large audience is incredibly hard. And
it is.
The Coven of Mischief is something that I think a lot of people are just like, what the hell are these people doing? What is this? Do I want to put my time and efforts into it? And we try to release videos and stuff, and we'll release them. And it totally makes sense to me, because obviously I'm the one coming up with the ideas. But then, I watch it from, I guess, the mindset that it's new to somebody, and I'm like, oh my God, I bet you they're so confused right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to be better at the mysterious stuff, trying to get people on board with all this mysterious stuff as well, kind of including an experience. I would say that over the last, couple of drops, we haven't had much of an experience, more like figure drops here recently, but I want to get back into the experience again, because I think that is the most interesting part of the things that we do. You get a really cool figure, and then you also get an experience that you're just like, where is this taking me to? What does this mean? Where is this leading? Right? Because that initial initiation thing with the coin and all was so cool. That was so much fun. I
but
enjoyed doing it.
It was very hard to do, and
but we can do it again, and we can do it in a bunch of different ways and come up with different things that you get on the things that you'll receive in the fact that you play. I guess I don't know how to say this, but like the reward that you receive by playing. I guess maybe that's the best way of saying it. But let's get back on topic with the logos. So logos from Fiverr, crash and burn, like entirely. It was so horrible, and we got to a point where I was like, God, what are we going to do now? Like Fiverr, that's messed up. I was talking to people trying to find an artist that would work with us. And then one day it was like, bingo.
Noel.
Why didn't we reach out to Noel from the beginning? Why didn't we ask her?
So I don't know exactly the words that I said to her at all. But I can look that up. I would really like to figure out what I said to her, because just the way that she does things, it's just brilliant. It's like we can give her an idea and it'll be pretty vague, and she just like impresses the heck out of us.
She's amazing.
She is so incredible. The work is so good.
By the way, it isn't like she's ever worked for a toy company or had to design anything like this. Like, I know that she went to school for a lot of this stuff.
Yes, and she actually does digital. She what do you call it? Not digital art. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She does it for a living.
Right. Exactly. So she has background in it, but this is something different for her. So the fact that she hit the ground running, now she's coming up with all these figure designs, just says a lot about her and her talents. There are a lot of folks out there who are working on these designer toys, and they're artists that that have done all sorts of stuff, and their career sort of expands into all different genres. Like there's the one guy out there who works for Pixar, right? You have all these people who are doing all these incredible over-the-top things.
Yeah.
And
for abominable toys.
Exactly. So I like to say that Noel is sort of staking her claim in this industry by working with us. I mean, Noel could go off and work with other companies in the future as well. I always tell Heather I want to keep her definitely with the Mischief Toys team as we go forward. I would like, in 20 years, I would like to look back on Mischief Toys as it grows, and hopefully it'll be growing in 20 years, fingers crossed, and still have her by our side as our lead artist for our growing toy company. I mean, that'd be amazing, right?
Yeah, she's so fantastic. I
She
just
is.
can't speak enough praise about her.
She's awesome. So that's kind of how we figured out that we didn't need to look anywhere else but, right here at home, because she lives literally 15 minutes away from us. And this whole time we're, running around trying to figure out who's going to do our artwork for us and who are we going to work with. And they were here the entire time. So that's awesome. The cartoonist people. Now, my relationship sort of kind of ended with them, mainly because after we did a couple cartoons together, or they did a couple cartoons for us, I thought that they would start working with us a little bit and sort of giving us, I wouldn't say price breaks, but at least give us a consistent pricing point. And they weren't. And they ended up, after the pandemic, I guess maybe work ramped up for them. And they're like, oh yeah, the work's going to be like an extra, $200 per cartoon. And I'm like, oh my God. Like that very first cartoon, it cost us like what, $2,000 to make that cartoon? And our intro cartoon as well for Gastlecast cost us around $1,500. So it is not cheap. So as time went on, we kept thinking about how can we continue doing cartoons? Like cartoon seems like something really cool for our company. No one else is doing it. And we got in contact with somebody, and they worked on the television show Archer. And
very talented guy.
Very talented. And we had a conversation with them, and they were really cool. Excuse me. They were really cool. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be an awesome future. What are your prices? Their prices were obvious, astronomical high, because they are used to working for TV shows and all that stuff and making shows like Archer. there was just no way we could afford it. So the cartoon thing sort of like
fizzled out.
It fizzled out. Yeah. Maybe in the future though.
Maybe. I would like to get back to the logos for a second, and this will tell you exactly how talented Noel is. So, literally right before New Year's Eve, this was December 30th, 2020, I said, "Do you still have Red Guy and his head?" Because she like titled all of the files that she sent to us of Ghastly when she refined him Red Guy.
That's funny.
And she said yes. I said, awesome. So we're making a toy company called Mischief Toys. He wants that character, his name is Ghastly, incorporated with Mischief Toys somewhere. He likes sort of dark fonts, if that makes sense, similar to our Gastlecast logo, because our Gastlecast logo looks similar to like what a metal band would use,
right.
Almost just a bit more legible, you know?
Right.
If you don't have that or don't remember, I can find a picture of it. He was hoping you could quickly draw up a few like you did for me. She had done some logos for my office orientation podcast prior to this.
Right.
And we could pick out a couple for you to work on. This is what he was thinking so far, but he isn't an artist and is 1000% open to ideas. That's what you drew up.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I'm gonna post this on Instagram this week for you guys to check out.
Too, for our video feed.
Move your big head.
There it is. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's a drawing, and that is my drawing too.
That is, yep. That's Chris's pen to paper. And I said he's not set on that. She said, awesome. I can draw up a few sketches over the weekend and send them to you guys. And then we talked a bit, and she sent us some images. So we've got Ghastly sort of picking up pieces of the logo with different fonts.
Right.
Ghastly standing on top of the logo, Ghastly's head and like Mischief Toys sort of wrapping the logo, and then she found different fonts. So I'm going to show this to the camera, and I'll also post this on Instagram this week, or maybe Chris can post this.
Oh, there's our font right here.
Yep.
That's what we ended up choosing.
That one,
yep.
top.
That's what we ended up choosing. Whatever
side that is. But yeah, I mean that's what she did. So basically, I don't know what this is. Oh, I said he likes your ideas, but built a little bit off of it. I hope you can read his writing. So on a Post-it note, you basically drew like a silhouette of Ghastly holding the M up.
Oh, right.
So that's Chris's drawing on his sticky note.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically Ghastly pushing the letter M up in Mischief Toys.
Yeah, so we were actually between, I'll circle it for this video, but we were between this font and this font.
Oh, okay.
For the logos.
And we know where we ended up.
Yep, we sure did. And she said, okay, this is what I have for the logo so far. Got a couple of different color variations. I had to edit Ghastly a smidge so it would work with the logo. Let me know what Chris thinks if he wants to change anything up. So, as you can see, she did a couple different logos.
Yep, so there he is holding up the M.
Yeah.
It's like the M is falling off, and he's holding it up or something. That's kind of how I was looking at it. Mischief, there's a little mischief going on in the logo.
Yeah, he's doing something wacky over there.
We don't use that logo enough. We use the circle logo more.
Well, that logo is on our website, but I think the circular logo, like, it's iconic.
Yeah.
It feels more...
it encapsulates the Mischief Toys.
Yeah.
I think better.
Yeah, and I think it's just easy to put on things where, if you put a rectangular logo on a shirt, it doesn't have the same feel.
It looks like it would be better like on the back of a card. Like if you...
Yes.
Like if we had a business card.
Well, we actually have that on the front
there?
of our merchandise card.
Okay, then there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
So, I mean, she just...
Unbelievable
she's
work.
Amazing.
Unbelievable artist.
Yep.
She kills it with every iteration. And we actually, I think we're going to dive next episode more into the New York Comic Con. Because New York Comic Con was huge.
Yes.
And all things in between. New York Comic Con, if you haven't already, we have a video on Gastlecast YouTube called Making Mischief at NYCC or in NYCC. I can't remember the exact title.
NYCC.
At NYCC, where we run around New York Comic Con getting ready for our very first visit at a con with Mischief Toys. And what a blast it was. It was grueling. On top of that, it was a lot of energy was spent there. But we were able to sort of capture what that experience was like. There was a lot of ups and downs. We had, days where we sold out. Then we had some days where not many people came to our table. And a lot of it had to do with our table being sort of in the middle of nowhere and hard to find. We can discuss that a little bit. But I think what I really want to talk about in the next episode is how we designed Gargoyle Ghastly.
Yes.
So Gargoyle Ghastly basically was a last minute thought. It probably is the most expensive endeavor for Mischief Toys because of how quickly we had to turn this thing around. It's a whole saga in itself. Just the figure is a whole saga. But we'll discuss all of that in the next episode. But what we'll ask you to do now is to go and check out our Instagram for this podcast. It's at Making Mischief Pod on Instagram. You can go check that out. We also have an Instagram for Mischief Toys itself at Mischief Toys. And if you go to mischieftoys.com, you can sign up for our newsletter and find out all the new information that you need to know in regards to Mischief Toys. And we have a new drop coming really soon. So we're targeting August the 7th as our drop date for our next figure, which we will unveil very soon. It's a great figure. There's a great pin associated with it, along with a t-shirt and a hat. We think you guys are going to absolutely fall head over heels in love with all the things. It's going to be awesome.
Yes.
But we'll be back here next Monday for another Making Mischief podcast. We call those Mondays Mischief Mondays. And I think we're going to come to the end of this season of Making Mischief podcast. We'll probably take a break for a couple weeks, and then we'll come back again with season 2. But I think we'll finish out season 1 with next week's episode where we discuss New York Comic Con, because I think that's sort of like at the height of Mischief Toys and finally getting out there and everything to do with it. Might even be an hour-long episode where we sort of pick it all apart.
Well, I don't know how much we're going to get into actual New York Comic Con because we had a drop between then, too.
That's true. Yeah, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. The
trial and error
and
getting to that New York Comic Con.
Yeah, maybe
piece.
we'll open season 2 with this huge discussion about New York Comic Con. That'll be sort of a connective arm to the video that we already posted on Gastlecast YouTube. It'll just be more behind the scenes than you saw in that video. We'll discuss all that and more. So the next episode will be the last episode of this season, and then a couple weeks from then, maybe even a month, we'll come back and we'll be right back here with Making Mischief podcast for season 2. But guys, thank you so much, and remember to make mischief.
Keep current with Mischief Toys by following at Mischief Toys on Instagram and by joining our newsletter on mischieftoys.com. Thank you for listening to the Making Mischief podcast, and remember to make mischief.